Hi, I'm Sassy from AstroCubed. How are you? How do you actually feel right now? That's, I think, what I would like to start with. Like, what's going on? For me, it feels like I'm being encircled by a legion of soldiers or something. Like I can hear the marching in the background. And even when I was thinking about mentioning this in the beginning of this video, but just before I started, actually there was a helicopter passing by, and a nervous group of pigeons flew over my house, and was really a lot of pigeons. Like we have a lot of pigeons here, but um, that was 50 animals or something. That was crazy. So, yeah, I'm not being attacked by pigeons or anything, but something is afoot. And I think I can see it in the astrology. But we'll get to that. Before, if I'm not stumbling over my words too much, I would like to read you something um, that I read today. And it's I'm not unfamiliar with what I read, not completely, especially the Rudolf Steiner stuff, but there's a new component to it, and maybe it's the same for you, maybe it's not, maybe it's completely new for you, or it's old news, whatever. I would like to read it, and it's from this website of Tom Montalk here, montalk.net. There you can find what I'm gonna read to you right now. I think it's the page Spiritless Humans Transcending the Matrix Control System. Yeah, we're going right into it. So, I'm just gonna read because it's like this whole page and a bit more. So, the ancient Gnostics, specifically the Valentinians, divided humans into three groups: hylics, that is matter, psychics, mind or soul, and pneumatics, spirit. Hylics, the lowest type of human, lack a spirit and are only interested in mundanity and materialism. They have no desire or capability for spiritual liberation. Psychics are intermediate humans with developing spirits who can move in life toward spiritual destruction or liberation depending on the choices. And pneumatics are spiritually awakened humans. Similarly, Hinduism, specifically Tantrism, classifies humans into three groups: Pashu, that is animal, Vira, that is heroic, and Divya, which is divine. The Pashu are animalistic, materialistic, and incapable of spiritual evolution. John Baines writes in his book The Stellar Man that humans, like all animal species, have a collective soul unique to their species. This collective unconscious exerts a de individualizing influence on humans, nudging them toward mob mentality, herd mentality, and following the crowd. Rupert Sheldrake would call this the human morphogenic field. People who have not developed their own conscious individuality are mere automatons following the soporific influence of the collective unconscious as though they were extensions of a hive mind. The goal of esoteric training is to split away from the herd to develop one's own volition and thereby become a free being. Rudolf Steiner voiced similar sentiments. His foundational work, The Philosophy of Freedom, addressed this problem. Steiner said that as long as humans obey external authority, their own biological instincts, or the animalistic parts of themselves in common with the rest of humanity, they are not free beings. Freedom comes from choosing based on intuitive understanding of what each option entails and what it means. This act of free will requires introspection and spiritual acumen to act from a place of true understanding. Steiner acknowledged that not everyone introspects to the degree necessary to make intelligent free will choices. I find this text to be written so well that I just had to read it out to you. So, and then he continues with a private discussion where Steiner is actually cited directly in conversation with a teacher. And I just want to start with it. Are we going to do the whole thing? I don't know yet. Let's start. So Dr. Steiner said, that little girl LK in the first grade must have something really very wrong inside. There's not much we can do. Such cases are increasing in which children are born with a human form but are not really human beings in relation to the highest I. Instead, they are filled with beings that do not belong to the human class. Quite a number of people have been born since the 90s without an I. 90s is in 1890s, so over 100 years ago. So quite a number of people have been born since the 90s without an I, that is, they are not reincarnated but are human forms filled with a sort of natural demon. There are quite a large number of older people going around who are actually not human beings but are only natural. They are human beings only in regard to their form. We cannot, however, create a school for demons. A teacher says, how is that possible? Dr. Steiner answers, cosmic error is certainly not impossible. The relationships of individuals coming into earthly existence have long been determined. There are also generations in which individuals have no desire to come into earthly existence and be connected with physicality or immediately leave at the very beginning. In such cases, other beings that are not quite suited step in. This is something that's not quite common, that human beings go around without an I. They are actually not human beings, but have only a human form. They are beings like nature spirits, which we do not recognize as such because they go around in a human form. They are also quite different from human beings in regard to everything spiritual. They can, for example, never remember such things as sentences. They have a memory only for words, not for sentences. The riddle of life is not so simple. When such a being dies, it returns to nature from which it came. The corpse decays, but there is no real dissolution of the etheric body, and the natural being returns to nature. It is also possible that something like an automaton could occur. The entire human organism exists, and it might be possible to automate the brain and to develop a kind of pseudo-morality. I do not like to talk about such things since we have often been attacked even without them. Imagine what people would say if they heard that we say they are people who are not human beings. Nevertheless, these are facts. Our culture would not be in such a decline if people felt more strongly that a number of people are going around who, because they are completely ruthless, have become something that is not human, but instead are demons in human form. That is apparently a direct citation from faculty meetings with Rudolf Steiner, as you can see on the screen. So you can read the rest on your own if you're interested. I'll give you all the details. And I want to emphasize how difficult it is, what Steiner is talking about, or what Montalk is talking about. But I can definitely kind of like counter, no, not counter, like the opposite, the opposite of the opposite. I can, what's the word? My feeling tells me something very similar. I have different words for it, but I feel for me, I would put it as there's a lot of life out there that is actually not life, but just pretending to be life, because life is about change. And many people live lives that is trying to contradict change, but you cannot really contradict life. What happens is then that your death becomes your only way to really live, because death is the ultimate change. And if your entire life has been fighting change, then death becomes the thing, unfortunately, because you cannot escape life. You can try all you want, but you cannot escape life, not even here, not in this weird world. But So, in other words, you cannot escape change. So, and I think I want to just leave it at that, um, for now at least, because I want to actually speak about the sun and the moon. I love cycles. I love cycles, and astrology is just absolutely full of cycles, just prone to just talk about cycles upon cycles and cycles within cycles, and it's like sub-cycles, and it's like, yes, please, more. Let's cover the basics very quickly. So the sun is, for me, the father in the sky, and the moon is the mother, but they actually have reversed jobs. So the mother is in the husband's. Oh yeah, they also married, by the way. Um, so the moon is carrying out the husband's task of like an everyday job, let's say. And the father is the one who's staying at home, has a slower life, and is taking care of the children. So he's taking care of the children, so that's the planets. He is slower than the moon. The sun is much slower than the moon, and the moon is basically hurrying and buzzing around, basically. I mean, the moon is so fast, it's crazy. Not as fast as Vulcan, but still very fast. So that's a very interesting thing that I recently discovered, or like made aware of, rather. That we have quite the, how would you say it? Is it feministic moon and sun? I don't want to call it feministic, but let's call it modern. I don't like feminism. I'm sorry. It's whatever. So the cycle of the sun and the moon is like, the sun is for me consciousness, you could say. The moon is then the unconscious, while also the emotional world. But I don't really see the sun as the mental world. I kind of put all that stuff into like the planets. It's much more clear for me to think in that way. So I think the moon is more associated with the emotional world because it's just feminine. And the feminine, for me, is this, the feminine side of things is associated with number 3, the connectivity stuff. But maybe I'm wrong with the sun. Maybe there's some mental aspect in it that I have not discovered really yet. I'm always open to learning. So, but what I'm really interested in is the connection between the two. Because whenever you have polar opposites, so two things of the same quality. No, of the same kind, of the same time, with opposing qualities. But don't confuse it with dualism. For example, good and bad are dualistic in my eyes, but not polar opposites, because the good can survive without the bad, but the bad can't survive without the good. Which is the essential problem of the devil, basically, and that's why we're all here, I think. But anyway, I digress. Cycles, yes. The cycle of the conscious and the unconscious. Very important for shadow work to understand this. So I made this little graph. Let's see. Okay, I need to move this a bit. Yeah. So we have basically a cycle here that I drew as a, how do you call it? Like a thing with axes, whatever, a diagram. I have no fucking clue. Down here we have the new moon. This is the beginning of the cycle, and this is the point where we know the least. Like, it's the start of the cycle, but we don't know what the cycle is about yet. And we go around the cycle to the full moon, where we are confronted with what it's really about. It's like the obvious, like you can see the moon in its full expression in the sky as a picture of us becoming aware of what this new cycle is about, basically. And all this time, all this while, from the new moon to the full moon, so all this first half of the cycle is unconscious. So that doesn't mean that we just like fell asleep and we don't know what we're doing and we wake up at the full moon be like, what? No. The unconscious means also something like brushing your teeth, like things you do deliberately, but have kind of put in your, like all the subroutines you kind of pushed into your unconscious, so you can just focus on other things that are more important, because there are so many cycles always at all times. This cycle is just one of many, and just because, for example, we are in the first half here, doesn't mean that other cycles are in the second half. So there's always some conscious work going on, basically. But here we're just relying on the past, what we know, what we've kind of put into subroutines. There's this helicopter again. Interesting. Anyway, but no birds. But now I can see the helicopter. It's a rescue helicopter. Hope they're alright. Anyway. So we don't know what the new moon is in the new when we are in the new moon phase. We don't know what the new cycle is really about. Becomes apparent in the full moon. And now the 3/4 moon, which is like going to be exact in a couple of hours, like 6 hours from now, from when I'm recording this, this is where the unconscious kind of seeps in again. So where the conscious is waning, so to speak. So kind of try to describe it here. And then I had this feeling that like these axes are important. So it feels like this is the conscious work axis, because here we are fully conscious here in this quarter. But with the beginning of the full moon, this is the first time we really become aware of what's really going on. So it's really with the third quarter moon, so right now, that we have some experience with it. Not just awareness, but also experience. We have spent some time, like quarter, a month, so a week, with this new energy. And now we can, this is the last point, so to speak, where we can use our full force, our full consciousness, and put it into habits, patterns, emotional patterns, mental patterns, resources, patterns, like you think about anything, like muscle memory, and put it into our unconscious, so it's there the next time we need it. So we don't need to like be a complete monkey, or like, I don't know, not a monkey, an idiot or something, brushing your teeth. Oh, what do I have to do? Oh yeah, first the upper or first the lower, it doesn't really matter. And I need to do circles and then upwards, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, we don't have to be an idiot don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, basically. So, and we are right here at this point. So let's have a look at to move this around. At some charts, because I prepared some charts to look at, like gazillion, but I hope that I can show them to you in a very okay, maybe can I close this? Yes. Okay, cool. So let's look at the new moon, because the entire cycle is always about what happened at the new moon. What is the cycle about? Because that's like the cycle defining point in time. And this was on 25th of June. It was in the 5th degree of Cancer, which for me is Leo, but never mind that. I'm not gonna go too much into that, but let's call it Cancer. So it was at 50 in the 5th degree of Cancer, and then the lunar nodes were in the 22nd degree of Pisces and Virgo. And what else? Oh yeah, it was conjunct Jupiter. As you can see, I think you can see my cursor here. Cursor, can you see my cursor? Yes, perfect. Right here, there's the Sun-Moon conjunction, so the new moon. And then I do heliocentric astrology for the planets, because the planets revolve around the sun. The sun is the center, or the place where our consciousness resides, in my opinion at least. It certainly does not reside in our body. It's connected to our body, but it does not reside in our body. So I think it's very not proper, what's the word? Appropriate for us to look at the planets heliocentrically. But all the rest, well, planets, asteroids, and all the minor bodies and everything, heliocentrically, and then of course the sun and the moon, the ascendant, lunar nodes, geocentrically. And then I'll just combine it. Yeah, so we are in a cycle that is big, essentially. Like Jupiter, it does many things, but one of the things it does, it blows things up, basically. Not in an explosion kind of way, it can also do that, but usually just by magnification, basically. But Jupiter is also about belief systems, about higher knowledge, but also wisdom. It's not just facts with Jupiter. That's more Mercury's realm. With Jupiter, it is things that you have gone through, like it's based on experience, basically, and have gained wisdom from. So that's why I say belief systems. And then let's have a look at the nodes. Of course, it looks very confusing, but we only need to look here. Jupiter is right now approaching its north node, but it wasn't really that close yet. I would say, like, normally for a conjunction, anything in between, within an orb of 12 degrees is for me a conjunction. So that's very wide. For the nodes, I would consider half, so like 6 degrees, and that's still pretty wide. And it's not within 6 degrees yet, so I would not consider this to be a conjunction. But we have this little sucker here. I mean, these are the minor bodies that I consider. And here, right on top of Jupiter is Chaos. Yeah, Chaos. There's a minor body out there which is called Chaos, and I can't remember. Let me look it up. If it's an asteroid or a trans-Neptunian object. But let's see. So Chaos, an object in space. It's a Kuiper belt object. So it's a trans-Neptunian object. So it's associated with Virgo rather than Cancer in my book. Not the Cancer that we're talking about, by the way, because that's Leo. I know, it's very confusing. I apologize, but that's what it is. I should probably, instead of say it's associated with Virgo rather than Cancer, I should probably say it's associated with the number 11 and a little bit with the number 5. That is probably less confusing, though also less specific. So trans-Neptunian objects, as well as the asteroids, have a laser-like energy in the sense that they're not really relevant in a chart unless they are in conjunction, like in a tight conjunction with another body. like in this case with Jupiter and with a new moon. And the rest, even oppositions, I'm not too worried about those. That's already too unspecific. They're very on point. They also have to be because they're so small. Like they are more like stars. They're not stars, but stars also have a smaller orb than planets. So yeah. So this cycle is somewhat fortuitous with Jupiter because Jupiter is also the together with Venus one of the great beneficiaries. No, that's like when you receive something good, but the good givers, so to speak, of the planets. So, but of course, Jupiter can also make bad things bigger, and chaos is. I mean, the question is here, and I'm not sure. It depends, I think, how the chaos appears in our life. Because if it's true chaos, then it's the work of the devil and really needs to be, well, fought or shun or shut out or dealt with in some kind of way. But there's also something I call creative chaos. But then creative chaos is based on order. It's the picture, the image that I have in my head always is, if you want to get, like, if you want to paint a picture, do some how do you say that? Handcrafted stuff at home, like, pull out the scissors and the color pens and whatnot and get creative. You need to have your home in order, or at least one room where you can spread out all your stuff and get like creative. So, and for that creative chaos to take place, you need to have something in order. So, and that's very much actually what the TNOs are about: chaos and order, and to some degree also the asteroids, but more on the emotional side, and the TNOs more on the mental side. So the chaos could be in our heads, like thinking straight might be a problem. And it could be that there are some nefarious influences, or it could be just us needing to just clear house, just tidy up. Just do your, like, the usual stuff, like do some shadow work. Get to the bottom of things, what's really going on here. So that's what the cycle is about, the new moon. Now, on June 25th, we had no clue about this. Like, I had no clue about this because I did not look at the astrology. So, and my intuition probably gave me some nudges here and there, but I wasn't very attentive because, let's face it, we're in a spiritual war, and we are constantly distracted by what's going on, and we have very little resources for what we need to do. So oftentimes I feel just like a ping pong ball, like just being pushed around and just do a little bit here and a little bit there, and then trying to see the bigger pictures is really hard for me. So that's why I think astrology also helps us, because then at least some part of that energy, it's like, this is just the energy of the time. So you can just say, yeah, that's just weather, sky weather, like, not sky weather, astro weather, as opposed to sky weather. Yeah. So the full moon then was on July 10th, so a week ago. And that was, I think, shortly after Uranus went into Gemini geocentrically, which, by the way, it did not do yet heliocentrically, which you can see here. That's not gonna, I thought it was November, but I think Uranus is not gonna move into Gemini until January or even February next year. Definitely next year, not this year. And I think Saturn is going to move into Aries heliocentrically in November of this year. So just putting that out. But once they have changed signs heliocentrically, they have changed signs. Like, they do not go back. There's no retrogradation bullshit. There's no shadow periods. There's just straightforward movement. And when something changes, it changed. For good. I really like that. So, yeah. The full moon. How did we experience this, becoming aware of this cycle for the first time? The full moon was in the 19th degree of Capricorn and Cancer. Capricorn's Capricorn, by the way. Capricorn did not change in my system. Cancer is Leo, but anyway, 19th degree. I'll keep that in mind. There's nothing here. Like, the Vulcan here is too far away, and Jupiter, obviously, because it's 2 weeks after the new moon. But we have here the nodes of Pluto. Down here with the sun, we have the north node. And up here with the moon, we have the south node. Obviously, you can't see the moon and the sun in here because astrological programs are, well, problematic because they're only programmed to do certain things, and I always seem to pick the things they can't do, like mix up geocentric and heliocentric astrology. How dare I? Like, nobody thought of that ever. Like, what? Why not? Let's be creative, people. Anyway, so the full moon was on the nodes of Pluto. Not to be mistaken for the lunar nodes, but the nodes of Pluto intersect with the ecliptic, so the movement of the sun above the earth, which means that it affects our consciousness. It affects our sun more than the moon, obviously. It's basically a time where transformation is easier in the way it's much more obvious. It's like something you normally look at and it's like a picture on your wall, let's say, like a poster or a painting, and it's obviously a still picture, and that picture is turning into a video screen, and suddenly you have a video running on that video screen. So still picture transforming into moving picture, so to speak. So it's like you just have access to another dimension that you do not have usually, but you only have it for a short little time. Like, the time frame is usually pretty small. Like, another example is usual, like, normal lunar phases, like what we're talking about right now, as compared to eclipses. Just like, boom, stuff happens. New cycles is much more important. Stuff happening around the eclipse is also affecting longer periods of times after the eclipse. So that, because it's just so much that is coming through, you just need time to process all of the information. Hence the my comparison of a still picture and a moving picture. Hope that helps. So the full moon was all about transformation. So, but public transformation, like society level transformation, could be like, for me, I always like to work with DNA, and if I had known it, if I had looked at the astrology a week ago, I probably would have made an effort to kind of go through my beliefs. You know, I talked about Jupiter being conjunct the new moon, about my beliefs about my own DNA and what I can change. For example, I believe that a normal human lifespan should not be 100 years or even 70 years or something. It should be way longer than 200 years, maybe even 500 years or something like that. Or I think our like regenerative capability should be way higher. Like scar tissue is not normal. Like unfunctional tissue just filling up other like holes in the tissue is just completely ridiculous. I'm grateful it's there because the alternative in this situation would be worse, obviously, to keep the hole and no tissue, obviously. But still, there's room for improvement, let's say. So that would be one of the things I would say if this would be a video about the full moon, which it is not, but we can still trust, I think, well, yeah, that we can also work outside of time. So I can do this retrospectively and say, well, now that I've become aware of it, I actually think this, blah, by looking at the astrology and everything. And I think it still works. Let's have a look. I don't think, yeah, there was no minor body really there. Like this one is not relevant for the full moon. So let's have a look at right now. So right now, the sun is in the 26th degree of Cancer. The moon is in the 26th degree of Aries. So they are in a square, which is called the third or first quarter moon. And we have no planets here, like 26 degree here, 26 degree here, nothing. We have Saturn somewhat, the north node of Saturn, close, but not too close. Probably not. It's too far. But we have Fortuna, which is another minor body in conjunction with the sun, and Eris and Wuhan conjunct the moon. Yeah, okay, so what is Eris, what is Wuhan, what is Fortuna? So the good thing is that Fortuna is with the sun, and of course I know that the sun is in a heliocentric model is right here. It's in the middle. It's not. It's nowhere here, somewhere in one of the signs. But since I look at the sun, my geocentric view is towards the sun, and my zodiac doesn't change. But I also simultaneously have this view. My consciousness has this, maybe not this view, but awareness that the planets and the minor bodies and everything rotate around it, kind of projects it onto the same space where, from my point of view, is the sun. That's where I think it's. I probably should have started with that, but that's my own creativity that I come up with just solving problems. Why not do that? Why not being able to hold two perspectives at the same time? I think I've worked long enough with paradoxes, with Zen-like paradoxes, basically, holding two opposing perspectives, that I can do this. If you get a headache from that, don't worry. If this view doesn't completely repel you, appall you, or does nasty things that you have to turn away, it can do whatever it wants. It doesn't have to be perfect that you like, yay, let's do this, this is amazing. No. It's not all sunshine and daisies out there, and I started out definitely not like working with the paradoxes. I certainly did not start out having a feeling of like, this is working out. Like, no, this is not working out. This is like repelling each, like I said before, it's repelling each other. I can't do that. I get a headache from it. This is stupid. How many times did I say that? But in the end, or in the end not, but on my travels, my journey throughout the years, It's gotten easier and I got used to the headaches. maybe it's just that. Anyway, it helps me. I hope it helps you too. But yeah, so for 2 nights with the sun, which is extremely fortuitous, so that's very good because we had that chaos conjunct Jupiter conjunct the sun with a new moon. I think this is a good twist in the last 3 weeks, I would say. Especially in the last week or so. But there's a big but, because Aries and Wuhan is a combination that I do not like at all. But Aries is the goddess of strife and discord. So she's the one, oh, what was the story again? Something about an apple or something? No, I can't remember. She somehow was able to put discord in between 3 or 4 other beautiful goddesses, and they fought about who's the most prettiest one. But Aries is essentially a goddess talking about fairness and balance and justice. So Aries is next to Nibiru, which is for me the ruler of Libra. The point or body in the sky that resembles the justice card the closest. Like Nibiru is obviously a hypothetical planet, also called a Planet 9 or Planet X. Even has a Wikipedia entry. It's probably around about 6.5 degrees, I think. Oh, and this one it's wrong. This says 2.5. Should be 6.5. So like here, need to change that. So that's here Nibiru at 6.5 degrees. I just can't put a label on it, unfortunately. Yeah, the astro programs are ridiculous, really. Like how much you can change and how much you cannot change. But I can at least put in a position here. Anyway, so Aries is definitely a balancing force, but the way she does that can look very strife and discord like. It's in her name, basically, in her description. So we need to be careful where we have arguments, how we do them, why we do them, like what our motives are, but also stand by them when we have thought through them and still support our anger or whatever, like our dynamite. Because not all anger is unjustified. There is anger that is lightful. And I've thought about this a very long time. Like all these negative emotions, anger one of them, if they have a place in the light. And I think they do. Very rarely, but they do. And one of them is just to distinguish between inner and outer. What is inside the light and what is not inside the light. And if something is trying to penetrate the light that is not supposed to be there, then heck, you can be angry. You are allowed to defend yourself. So, yeah. But that is something we have to figure out ourselves. And then Wuhan is such a weird minor body. When I first discovered that there is a minor body called Wuhan, I was like, what? Is that because it was post 2020 when I discovered that, like 2021 or 2022, I can't remember. I was like, did they invent that after 2020 or something? Is this like a joke, or I don't know what, or did they discover it during 2020? No, I don't think so. I think it existed before that. But it's obviously named after the Chinese city. It has something to do with military. Talked about that before. and was it strategy and something small becoming big, which is obviously because of the pandemic, I think. So I feel like Wuhan is about, so the minor body, is about strategic movements or some strategy of a larger scale. So military, um, yeah, not necessarily military, but it needs to be on a larger scale. So not just one human being having a strategy, like a personal plan or something. It's society based or even larger, humanity based or whatnot. And something small becoming big. Well, that's always nice because I believe in the small steps, like leading you to big results. Basically, always doing the small things. It's gonna add up over time. So that's probably very important here as well. Although I don't really see how or why right now, but it's always good. It's always a good reminder, I would say. And those two conjunct, it looks like a bit of a face-off, but not necessarily that something is happening because like Fortuna is there. Like I don't think we have to like it's a full-on battle, but it's more like a face-off, like sabers rattling, showing a bit what you've got, so you can kind of try to scare off the other party or something. Because this is also a turning point. Like the third quarter moon is a turning point, where we surrender to our unconscious again. Like everything we have learned by now, like I said before, here, let me show it to you again. Everything we have consciously learned so far, on all the new stuff we put into the unconscious, into this big blob over here, so you can just rely on it in the future. Whatever the future is gonna bring, but you can have a bit of a sneak peek into July 24th, the next new moon, which is gonna be in Leo, or Gemini, as I call it. I know, I just pissed off so many Leos by calling them Geminis. I think it's one of the hardest ones that of the combinations of like it feels like an insult, whatever, because I mean Leos have the sun, and then what do they get? Mercury, like meager, small, witty little Mercury. What's your sales argument here, woman? Anyway, so it's in the third degree of Leo / Gemini. There's no planet here, like conjunct at least, but in opposition there's Pluto, like in an exact opposition, 2.5 and 2 degrees and 8 minutes. That's very close. So it's going to be a very transformative time in a week, exactly in a week, but also leading up to that. And there's not much we can do by now. Like, we still have conscious work to do. It's the conscious work is waning now, but it's still there. But the conscious work is also, part of it is surrendering to the unconscious again. So, which doesn't mean that we have less conscious work in a week. Like I said, we have other cycles going on in between the planets. For example, the moon is hurrying around like crazy. And also the sun is in certain relations to each planet, for example. So there's lots to do. But when it comes to the ultra mega important cycle about the conscious and the unconscious, which is the sun and the moon, the lunar cycle, we are going towards the unconscious part. So let me see. I don't think there was anything other. No, that's Urania, but she's too far away. And this one, I think this is Lucifer, but it's too far away. So don't worry about that. I think we're gonna focus in a week very much on Pluto unconsciously, and then it'll be until in 3 weeks when we have the full moon that we get an idea about what in the world is actually going on in this new phase. And actually, yeah, there's one more thing I want to tell you, just to make it that one. Just to round it up, because I have not talked about the first quarter moon essentially at all yet. And for me, because there's no conscious work there really. It's starting here, like very slowly it starts here. But it's mainly it's completely unconscious still, basically. But what we can do in 2 weeks' time when we hear at the first quarter moon is watch ourselves. What are we doing? Like there we can use our tools from the past that we have. Like for example, shadow work. Like to the 100,000th time, just watch yourself. It's super easy. Just get out of yourself, disassociate from yourself. You're standing in a supermarket in line. You're impatient, annoyed, stressed, whatever, and you're just like, nah, I'm just gonna step out of myself. I have nothing to do right now for the next 30 seconds or whatever, and I'm just gonna watch myself, watch the situation, for example. What am I seeing? Why? What do I really feel about things? Why do I really feel this way? How am I reacting to certain stimuli? And that kind of stuff. Like very groundwork. And by that, you can actually already get the first, like, hints about what might be going on. It's kind of like tickling the unconscious. Don't you want to give me like a little tiny hint about what's going on? And then the unconscious is like giggling and it's like, yeah, well, here you go. You have a treat, basically. That's kind of way. That's kind of also how you could see it. Anyway, so I hope this somewhat helped. I hope this somewhat made some sense, or that it kind of intuitively at least triggered something. Yeah, whatever. Like how we work is weird. How each and every one of us works is very different, and what we need is different. But it's sometimes interesting how, at the end of the day, how similar the stuff still is that works for each and every one of us. It's just that we need to learn to see each other's perspectives so that we understand how many different words can mean the same thing. Like, you can there are as many words as there are people to describe the same thing, basically. And it's an art to really learn to learn to put yourself in other people's shoes, to understand their perspective, and then at some point approximate other people's perspective, and then trying out their perspective, seeing where you're right and where you're wrong, and then adjusting your system and getting better and better, and so you can put together a bigger picture, so to speak, by other people's perspective. And that's, I think, comes back to what I started out with, that not all humans are spirited humans. That's how I would put it today. I always talked about the soul before, but I think I'm learning right now the difference between soul and spirit. Yeah, anyway, but that's a different story. So Thank you for listening, and hope to talk to you soon again. Bye bye.